Welcome to Hey Dancer, where every once in a while I dig deep into some fascinating dance change that I've experienced in my return to dance journey. And today is one such day. I'm your host, Miller DeRay, a former ex-professional teenage dancer stepping back into the studio after a while, 3 decades. And today we're going to tackle this topic. This topic has been, to be frank, nagging at me since I stepped back into my first class as part of my return. And that is this: why does choreography so often in so many classes today feel so rooted? Like, why aren't we moving? Why does everything also seem so upper body heavy, I've been sitting on this question for a long time, and I think I may have finally figured out why. It just kind of hit me like a lightning bolt, I guess you might say, after watching this Netflix series about cultural trends. There was an episode about dance, and oh my God, it validated so much of what I've been trying to make sense of. I'm going to play you the clip in just a second from this show, but let me first set the stage. When I came back to dance, I obviously had all the emotions. I was very pumped, I had a lot of fear, all the things. And I think one of the things I was excited about with coming back to dance was that feeling I remember from my youth, which is that exhilaration of just moving across the floor, covering space, using the full breadth of the studio when you're doing combinations, routines. But I found myself in choreo that honestly didn't go anywhere. There's so much of my footage from taking my early classes especially where I'm like, nothing is moving anymore. It's all upper body, arms, hands, upper body. Like, why aren't we moving? Gosh darn it. Don't get me wrong. A lot of upper body movement and hands and is there a term called handography? I feel like that should be a term now. I love it, and it's really challenging for the brain, and it's very, very good to work on, but I definitely missed the upper body and lower body kind of working together and moving together versus really just being stationary and the upper body doing most of the work, I found that this was the norm across multiple styles, whether it was jazz, which is more surprising almost, because jazz just feels like, leaps and just really just taking up space. Maybe this has a little bit also to do with the fact that it's so hard to find across the floor these days. Like, if that's going to be a time in jazz class especially to take up space, it's going to be across the floor. That feeling of the wind in your face as you're moving across the floor, oh my gosh, it's just the best. But especially, in hip hop, that I feel like in class now, it's very upper body centered and it's very stationary and there's very little just taking up space. I started to wonder, is this just what dance is now? And why? What an interesting change. So I was watching this show, and then this happened.
But the waltz would have a hard time becoming a craze today, in large part because it doesn't fit inside the frame of a phone.
The common joke about TikTok dances is that they look kind of like you're conducting air traffic because they're so upper body oriented and they have kind of angular movements.
So they stay inside the frame, and then center stage is your face.
Did you catch that? Fit inside the frame of a phone. That hit me really hard because there it is. The main reason why choreography has become so upper body focused and stationary, the shift to vertical video, where dancers are performing for the camera, often in tight vertical spaces, has fundamentally changed the game. This clip really confirmed my suspicions that dancing for the camera, especially, that iPhone vertical tight camera lens, has slipped its way into choreographic dance classes. Choreographers are designing combos with the lens in mind, keeping everything front-facing, close, and easily seen. And let's be real, with millions of dancers on TikTok and Instagram, this makes sense to go viral. you need to stay in the frame. It's fascinating and honestly, a little sad how much this has shaped modern choreography. It's not just that we're dancing for a phone. It's that the phone dictates how we dance. Let's break this down because there's more to it than just TikTok. Dancing in small spaces. Think about where people are creating these combos. Bedrooms, bathrooms, tiny apartments. Not everyone has access to a big studio anymore, to rehearse a combo, whatever. And that affects how choreography is made. It has to be doable in these small spaces. And when your creative process is limited by space, you're not thinking about traveling, you're thinking about making it fit. Now, here's a shift I've noticed. Classes today are often about learning choreography rather than focusing on the skills that make a well-rounded dancer, like transitions, weight shifting, or traveling. Because you better believe that back in the day, a combination, hip-hop class, jazz class, whatever, had you all over the dance floor. You were moving, you were working. Now you're working really hard, but in a whole other kind of way. Now, let's talk about social media a little bit. It's designed to grab attention. Fast, sharp, upper body movements look great on a phone screen. They're eye-catching, and with the rise of viral dance trends, choreographers are catering to this. After all, it's probably easier to learn 8 counts of arm movement than it is to master footwork that requires full body coordination, going with the arm movement. Although, honestly, for me, the so much separate upper body movement sometimes is even more challenging. Maybe it's just because choreography today feels much more dense. There's more movement happening in less counts, like they just cram so much in, and you're also not moving at the same time. It's just really interesting for my brain as an old school dancer returning to dance. I tend to gravitate toward choreography and, to be frank, really do well with choreography when the lower and upper body are working together and somehow it's just in sync. Now, to be fair, this isn't the first time cameras have influenced dance. Think of boy bands in the 90s, if you're old enough at least. Their choreography was tight and centered because it had to fit TV screens and keep them breathing, to be honest, while they sang. A lot of people say that this is where the dancing in the frame really comes from. Today's vertical lens is, if you think about it, doing the same thing, but just to a greater extreme. How does this impact dancers, ultimately? This is something that I think about. Well, I don't know. Here is where it gets tough. When we stop moving across the floor, like when we stop taking up space in the room, when we're doing the combination and really, traveling, we lose something really vital. Traveling isn't just about covering space. It's about building coordination, endurance, and spatial awareness. It's about learning how to connect movement to the room around you, to the other dancers around you, and to the music. I feel like, if I may say, we're raising a generation of dancers who are great in front of a camera, but kind of struggle to command presence in the room, struggle to command a stage, and it's not their fault. It's just the reality of how dance has evolved. Here's the thing. Teachers feel this pressure too. The dance world is competitive, and for some teachers, making choreography that grabs attention online feels like a lifeline. I don't blame them. It's how they fill their classes, gain visibility, and even land jobs. The temptation is real, to cater to the trends or risk being overlooked. But here's the catch. Good teachers, the ones who really care about creating well-rounded dancers, they never fell into this trap in the first place. They've stuck to their guns, kept their choreography full-bodied and moving, because they know that's what builds dancers who can do it all. And honestly, they're right. Teachers shouldn't have to compromise their artistry or their students' growth. just to fit into a TikTok trend. The dancers who can really move, who understand how to use space and energy, they're always the ones who stand out in the long run. But there is a silver lining in all this. Not everyone is succumbing to the trend. Some dancers and choreographers are finding ways to blend the best of both worlds, crafting movement that uses the whole space while still playing well on social media. I asked my followers on Instagram for some names of choreographers, especially in the world of hip hop, because this is where I see it the most. I mean, I still see dance videos online, like from Steps or Broadway Dance Center, the New York places where the jazz choreo is moving. Yes, for sure there. That said, I just wanted names maybe of some choreographers, commercial dance, jazz, funk, hip hop, street styles, where the choreographers are doing movement for the lens that is really moving and taking up space. Some names that came up were Christopher Scott, Mandy Moore, Brian Friedman, Kyle Hanagami, Fatima Robinson, the choreographer who does those jungle music videos. I don't know how to say his name. Shay or Shai Letukolin, maybe. The choreography of the CDK Dance Company. And if vertical video has shown us anything, it's that dance is adaptable. We're in this, I think, weird transitional period, but I have faith that as dancers, we'll bring back the magic of traveling while still embracing the tools of today, because if there's one thing dancers know how to do, it's to move forward, literally. Hey there, Editor Miller here. So it's been a couple of days really since I recorded this, and it's been on my mind, this topic. So I've spoken to some dance friends about it, and they told me that in addition to social media and the vertical lens and whatnot, that another element as to why choreo may not be traveling as much these days is that classes are a lot more busy. They're more packed now. With the advent of social media and people coming in really from all over the world to study at certain studios, dance teachers may just feel like the choreo cannot travel that much because classes are just so busy. You're like a sardine in there. Now, I would never negate what any dancer tells me. Everybody's point is obviously very valid. I can certainly recall classes way back in the day that were exceedingly popular, where you did feel like a sardine in class and it was so packed. But I'm guessing there may just be some truth behind this, and classes are perhaps in general, overall, busier now. And maybe that does play a role in dance teachers, choreographers feeling like they just can't have the students in class moving around and taking up too much space. I want to leave you with a thought. Moving across the floor isn't just a technical skill, it's a feeling. There's nothing like the joy of covering space, of connecting with a room, taking up space on the stage. So if you're a dancer or a choreographer listening or watching this, here's my challenge. Find ways to move. Use the space. And remember, dance is bigger than the frame of a freaking phone. It is very interesting to me that this has spilled over into dance class. It's funny too, because a lot of dance teachers will often dismiss, TikTok dances and whatever. And hey, I'm not one of those dancers, by the way. I think all of it is dance. It's all its own skill level. It's all a challenge and all the above. That said, the same teachers I have heard diss on TikTok trends are creating choreography, far more intense, far more skillful than maybe a TikTok trend, but it's not moving. Maybe they don't even realize how the social media trends have influenced and impacted their own choreo. Choreographing it so that it's not moving, so that it could be in a tight lens, so that eventually it is shareable on social media. Can we just say, by the way, how powerful just a walk is? What happened to just walking in choreography? I know dancers who have booked jobs because their freestyle was a chill powerful. You cannot look at anybody else but me right now walk. When everyone else is flipping and doing crazy extensions, they're taking up so much energy in the room by basically standing there and doing a little walk. You have to have incredible skill and confidence and energy and just musicality and style to take up room on a dance floor with an 8 count that is basically a simple walk. When the eyes are drawn to you and what you're doing, let's bring that back. You can tell so much from a dancer just by moves that are seemingly simple and easy, but I'm telling you, they're not. And there you have it, another episode in the books. Thank you so much for being here, for listening, for watching. Please follow and subscribe. Again, wherever you're watching or listening, rate the show, review, comment, share. I bet there's a dancer you know who would find this conversation kind of intriguing. Oh, choreography doesn't move as much as it used to anymore? Huh, I didn't know that. Or, that's right, I didn't think of that. I wonder why. Well, I'm not saying that the vertical lens and all of that is the sole reason, but it is 100% a huge factor. By the way, the series is called Explained on Netflix. If you're curious, I don't remember which episode though, but I'm sure if you Google it, you could find it, Dance Explained Netflix. This particular episode had nothing to do even with this topic in any way, had nothing to do with dance class, but it was this lightning bulb moment for me, just watching that, as a dancer in class. That's what I extracted from it, was this sort of epiphany of, oh my God, this is probably why, on a huge level, choreography in class doesn't move anymore.